Good morning everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is the part B for the month of March, the Roxy Creations stitch along. So as you all know, there may be a few that sort of have stumbled across this video and don't know what's happening. Rachel and Sarah, sisters, and their mum Juju from Roxy Creations have created a prompt for us each month. We are stitching them and then popping them in a journal of stitchery. I've just jotted down a few details here for anyone who's wondering what this is all about. Rachel is from Roxy Creations, and then her sister's YouTube channel is Roxy Creations by Sarah. But if you type in hashtag Roxy's Journal of Stitchery, you'll be dragged into the world of embroidery and slow stitch that's been happening around the world. And each month the girls have given us a prompt. So this one was vintage laces and fabrics and a butterfly. So I've been busy on my panel here, and what I've done so far is, firstly with the butterfly, I removed the back legs. There were 4 little legs back here and then 2 really small antennae. So they just didn't look right, and I sort of felt like, well, I guess the background story is I started doing a bee and then it turned into a moth, and now it's turned into a butterfly. And I think the 4 little legs at the back reminded me of a bee. The little antennae at the top also reminded me of a bee and a bit moth. So I needed to get this piece more like a butterfly. So by removing those legs and just leaving the 2 little legs at the top here, and then extending the antennae with a pistol stitch at the very top, sort of felt like my bee/moth had turned into a butterfly. So I've stitched down everything that we did in the last video. I didn't do a lot of slow stitch this time. I did a little bit around the edge of the panel that had the butterfly on it, and then around the music, just a running stitch, just to highlight or give that quilted look to my piece. I used a linen thread. I'd never used this before, and I've had a little while, and I thought perfect time to try it. It's not the most pleasurable thread to use because it's quite abrasive and rough, so sliding through the fabric was a little bit of a task, but it did give a beautiful effect. I did have a little bit left over, and I put some pistol stitches down here in this little bit of tulle, and then put some sequins and beads on top of it. So I do recommend you have a play with it if you ever see it. Here comes my cat Fudge, who just meows and meows when he wants attention. So just ignore him. So if you do see it and you want to try it, give it a go. But I would say that it's not the easiest to embroider with, especially if you've got a few layers. Now the next thing I did was started to embellish the lace around the side, and I had thought of using some of my bits and pieces out of my Redwork journal kit, but after I sort of started popping them around the place, they competed with the butterfly, so I decided to keep it very neutral. So I didn't end up using any of those things. On the butterfly, I had used some gold, champagne soft gold sequins and beads and bits and pieces. So I decided to stay in that theme and just started embellishing around the lace, different little areas with little clusters of beads and things. So I used a combination of general seed beads and mixed in there are some little rectangular beads. So they went around randomly. Then I had some little flowers that these next 4 items I got from Sequin Bazaar for the Australian ladies. They're based in Sydney, and they have the best range of sequins I've ever seen. I actually got the hot tip from a video I watched of Sarah's from Roxy Creations. So I got a mixture of all sorts of bits and pieces. If you did want to see what I bought from them, and I did a little video a couple months ago. So that there is a little glitter flower that I did pop on my panel, and then in the center of it, to secure it, I put a sequin and a little bead in the top of that sequin. If you can see the very top of it there. Whoop, there is 3-dimensional. Okay, and then just clusters of little beads around the place. It was sort of, I wasn't sure where I was heading with it. I added this little motif of crocheting here, which you hadn't seen in the previous video, and then using some leaves that I got from the sequin place, I created a little daisy-like stitch, a few more of the little gold beads, another one of those. Then this piece of lace here, I put a little flower sequin in all of the little round parts of this lace that came from that top. I tucked in tulle around as well, just to give the 3-dimensional feel to it, like little fluffy bits of tulle. I didn't do anything to this little geographical one here, not geographic, geometric piece. I just couldn't work out a way of embroidering it without losing the shape and the style of it, so I end up leaving that. Sometimes it's best just to leave things. They're beautiful as they are. Another little flower here, and then this piece of lace down the bottom. I just did a bead and a sequin and some little clusters here and there, but these beads were already on this. I added some leaves. That sort of ties the piece into everything. Added a couple little leaves here as well. So that's where I got, and then I thought I was finished, and then I decided to add some flowers. So these are made of the calico with a cluster of beads in the center and a little bit of tulle as well. So I want to make one more to sit up the top here. So I thought I'd turn the camera on, show you that, and then this block, I believe, will be completed. So what I do to make these flowers is I just got a piece of muslin, or calico, in Australia we call it, and cut out just a rough shape. Doesn't have to be exact. That is sort of reminds me of a bean or a jelly bean. I'll open it up and show you. I've folded it in half, this little piece of calico. So with the fold, you can then open it up and you get this shape. So I'll just cut another one. Now, I first saw this flower in one of Rachel's videos. She put 2 petals together to create a 4-petaled flower in something she was doing. I can't remember what it was now. I think it was a journal cover. It might have been a Jessie Chorley panel too. I just can't recall. So I've used them before. I made a video about a rabbit, a hare I slow stitch with lots of lace. I mentioned it in the first video, and used a lot of these flowers sort of to create 3 dimensions. So I'm a bit of a fan of this flower, but this time I'm going to use 6 petals. So therefore I need 3 elements to create it. So that's all you do. Once you've cut them out, lay them on top of each other. Now I'll just grab needle and thread, because we're going to stitch them together. Then we're going to embellish them. Now I'll use a fine needle because I will use some beads in the center, so I might as well keep it. Can't see my thread, there it is. Okay. Another thing I wanted to mention is the woolen mat behind me. People have been asking where I got it and what size it was. As I mentioned in the first part of this March video, I can't recall where I got it because I couldn't get it on Amazon. They'd sold out. So I end up just putting into the Google description wool ironing mat or pressing mat, and up they popped, and there were heaps of sizes. So the size I'm using here, which I find is actually pretty good, don't think I'd really want it any bigger. I definitely wouldn't want it any smaller, because if you're sitting and sewing excuse me, on your lap, it would just be, yeah, no room for anything in the way of putting pins or pieces of fabric around the place to work with. So my mat is 17 inches by 13 inches. So if you were wondering, that's what mine is. So I've just put a few little tacking stitches in the center of my flower. Now what I'm going to do is embellish it with a few beads. So because this container of beads is a mix of seed beads plus little rectangular ones, I'm just diving my needle. Oh, of course I picked up the wrong needle. It's not the beading one I thought it was. Just bear with me as I rethread. Okay, so I'll just bring that a little closer. It's still not going through. What did I do with my beading needle? This looks better. Unless I'm just picking up a heap of beads at the moment that are tiny, which it seems like I am. Is there another needle? Yes, there it is. Goodness. I've got so many needles sitting out to the side here. I really need to, yeah, this is the one. It's got a tiny little head on it. Of course, makes it hard to thread, but perfect for picking up some beads. Everything seems so reflective, so I'm having trouble to see. There we go. So I just picked up a couple. I'm just going to stitch them randomly in the center of my little flower. More little beads. You can use as many as you like. You can even create stamens in the center of your flower so that it looks like the flower has a featured center. But I'm just going to do some random clusters. I don't want to overthink it. Get some more beads on my needle. Hope you can see. Yep. Okay, and now just to add a little extra, pop them out of the way before they go everywhere. I believe one did fall on my work here. Yes, there it is. Might as well stitch him down. Oops, oops, oops. Look at that. I put him on the back. Goodness me. Give up on that bead. Thread my needle again. Not having much luck here. I think it's because I'm getting flustered. I think it's because I can hear my cat Fudge in the background just bellowing and bellowing. He wants to get on my lap, and when he doesn't get his way, he's one of those cats that just stomps around and bellows and carries on like a pork chop. And then finally he either wears you down or he just gives up, and it's usually wears you down. My second cat, Casper, he's a lot quieter and lazier, and he'd never do that. He'd just sort of look at you. While I'm chatting about my cat here, I've just gone back to that little blouse and cut off a little scrap of this tulle that is from the body of the blouse. And I'm just going to fold it in half and twist it a couple times, just so it scrunches up a little bit. And I'm going to stitch it in the center of my little flower here. It's just going to add a softness to the flower. I haven't done this before. I've just used 4 petals in the past and put some little stamens in with some little bullion stitches. So this is something a little bit new. So a couple little stitches to secure that in the center. Sort of looks a bit like a pansy. And then I'm going to pop that up here. So I'm just going to stitch that on with a couple more stitches. I love how it gives that 3D effect to your piece. Sort of helps your piece become a little bit more dimensional. Oh, can you hear that cat? You probably can't hear him. I should not worry about him, because if you can't hear him, what does it matter, hey? He's just bellowing. He's down the other side of the house. Carrying on. Okay, I've secured my little flower. Perfect. So that's up the top there. Those two at the bottom. I'll just bring it up to the camera so you can see the little bit of tulle that's in the center, and then these two here. Okay, so that's my piece completed. If you did decide to have a play with these flowers, I'll just show you another little thing you can do with that same shape. You cut out another petal and you can twist them together, lay them back on each other, squinch up the bottom a little bit, and just use the two, and they look like a little bud has popped out from the side of the flower. So you can sort of create like little bud-like pieces as well. So that's just another little thing you can do with this little shape, sort of like a little bean. I'll pop it on my finger so you can get a bit of a gauge of its size. So it's sort of going from my knuckle to the end of the finger, and then where that crease is about the center. So you can make them any size, but that's the size I've used in this particular piece. Okay, I think I'm gonna call this finished, and then take it to my book and be ready for the next installment. So I think the girls mentioned, because there's an extra week in March, they're going to give us just a little side project to do for the week. So looking forward to Wednesday to see what Rachel and Sarah and Juju conjure up for us. Okay, I will leave it at that. Thank you very much for watching, and I will talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.